Because there's multiple context here. We're basically just going to piggyback this thing on top of everything that we've already got written down. So make our stat name. Our stat name is actually going to need to be let's double check our stat names, make sure they're not all trash. Stat names are good. So let's go find that stat name. Let's also grab our data, so we're going to need our game score stats. Alright, so what we're going to need to do here is we're going to need get game data. This is game data cache. Alright, so this will be get game data direct, and if game data is equal to null, then we're just going to return an error. So that's good there. For this stats, basically we want to call this game data. We want to get the score for stat, and that's going to be stat.stat name and stat.stat value. Alright. And we're going to do that. And we need to add the adjustments. We need to add the score stat. Alright, so this will add our score, and we need to go through in here and switch off of our score name. I guess we don't want score in there. Well, we'll keep it in here just to have an exhaustive list. So let me take a look. Our stats scored, we actually have only these guys, so all these are return 0. Otherwise, so just gotta enter everything. Pop up. And wall. Already entered. Alright, so that'll switch off all that stuff. Grab us our score for our stat, we'll add it in there, and we will write our score to the database there. Alright, the next thing is we want the accuracy stat and the win-loss stat. So this is going to be a set. So we need to roll through these guys, and basically it's going to be our player touches and the rest for the accuracy. So we have two stats. If we're reporting them, we'll snag them. So what we want are the numbers for this. So again, it's going to be per context, and it's going to be our accuracy stat needs to be set after each. So we need to grab, we actually need to, for each player, so for each account, for each context, grab these things. So it's going to be a hash map of string to hash map of hash set of string. So it'll be context user map. Alright, so basically we're going to, for every interval, calculate these new stats for these users. And for their actual stats as well. So this is going to be the Alright, so we'll snag the account ID. It is just a very complicated piece of functionality so far. So what are these guys? This is the context user map. We do not want an M on this guy. It's not a member variable. And we don't know what any of these are because we've only been passed like the adjustments for everything. So we actually have to read from the database all these bits of information and then add it up. So the other thing would be, could we craft a query that's going to do this directly on the database? And I'll be right back. I'll think about it. I could do one select that'll grab everything all at once, and then do the munging myself. So I could snag all the stats that I care about in all the intervals I care about, sort them all out on the server, and then replace into all the correct places. Or I could do them one at a time. Otherwise, what it would be what would it be? Replace into what? User stat select what the blah 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 from table as T1 inner join select blah blah from table 2 as T2 and then it's like on like T1 dot stat context equals and then it's basically we need to set the and then it's like set the stat value equals T1 dot value divided by T2 dot value, something like that. Yeah, but then we start getting into stat truncation and all sorts of shit. So I might want to just do a select on all these different things. So I should probably do like a big select statement, snag everything out, and then go munge it. So if we create the aggregate stats, what we're going to want is the intervals. And I need more caffeine, I'm out. And there'll be a lot of calls anyway. So what I need to do is we're gonna first select from our basic stats, and then we're gonna select from our stat history. So can I just have like a simple thing going on here? So it's like a whole bunch of ors. So if we're doing win-loss, and we also want touch attempts and player touches and ball touches. So we want all 5 of these stats. So it kind of looks like this. So that'll snag basically all 5 of those if they exist for this thing. Alright. Alright, so that'll select every single stat that we need. So now that we have everything, we can actually create our win loss and our accuracy stat. And then we'll need to insert that into the fucking database too. Shit. But it's just a set, so it's not a big deal. Alright, so we need to go through every stat that we actually snagged and then fill out create the stat for it. So it's going to be a hash map of string to it's just going to be a stat user stat, right? Stats user stat. So I do win loss accuracy. Alright, so we need to go through every single stat. So instat and user stats q get array. We need a little bit more. Alright. It's just a lot of data transformation nonsense. Man. Because we get all this stuff back and we have no freaking idea in what order it is. So this is going to be all the data that we need. We could separate out by wins and losses. That's not really going to be helpful, so we have to create another object for this. So it'll be like a user profile object. We could make a score stats object for each user. No, it's not going to work too well. Do we already have an object for this? Or is everything all disconnected? No, we don't already have an object for this, is what it looks like. At least not generated inside of this world. This might be something I have to... Alright, so we'll make a profile for every one of these guys. And there's just a lot. There's a lot to do here, so it's kind of slow today. Just getting stuff set up all across and just dealing with numbers like this. I'm also trying to think about, like, well, what's the scaling implications of this? Is there a better way to do this? Is this just going to blow up the database? And it's like, all right, well, this logic is like, we have a kind of a complex query, and if like this doesn't scale very well, we can always like have a cache of it and do some other sort of stuff, and this data munging is okay as long as it's in the app server. Okay, so now we've got all this stuff aggregated out into an actual user profile for this stat context. What we need to do is write it back into the database. So we need to make stat, user stat. So we're going to need to go through for every profile in profiles. We're going to need to make a stat for the win-loss. So this is going to need to be a value. So we can just have a percentage but represent it as two numbers. So we're basically going to do like a, float percent is going to be like, let's do win-loss percent equals 0 if matches is going to be profile dot wins plus profile dot losses. I guess we probably want total matches to be the profile. Like we don't want L's, we want matches played. So that's just going to be in play. So look at the last two digits of that. And so we have the stat name. Is there anything else? Context name value. No, that's fine. So what we want is these stats, user stat. We want the inserts or replaces. And we want this to be an array list. Okay, the next thing we need is the accuracy. Alright, so we need float accuracy percent is going to be 0. So if profile dot touch attempts does not equal 0, accuracy percent is going to be float profile dot player touches plus profile dot all touches divided by profile dot touch attempts. And then it's going to be this accuracy percent like that. And we just need to add the accuracy to our replaces. And then after all that's done, we throw it in the database. So that'll get our win-loss percent, and that'll get our other stuff. So that'll be okay. So the first thing that we need to do is do that. That is a lot of stat screwing around stuff. Man. So we have our win-loss, and we have our accuracy for our all-time stats. We need to do the same for every interval. So these intervals are just doing an adjust on all this crap. So that's why we don't have to do anything here. But we can't reuse our profiles. We have to rebuild our profiles for every single interval that we're working with. So what we need to do is go through every interval. So let's snag all of our stats. Let's build our profiles. Let's build our replacers. Set those guys up, and then let's batch insert those into the database. Oh man, what a freaking garbage dump. Hello, Synachron. I am creating a few specialized stats. One of them is an aggregate score, and the other one is win-loss record and accuracy record. Basically, which are values that are kind of ridiculous, but whatever. So we can actually start making some of these pages that we want to actually be able to see with global rankings and all sorts of stuff. And it can get kind of complicated with exactly what we want. So I think that's going to report all the stuff that we have. So it should work. Did I delete everything from here? Maybe. Trying to think about stuff. This whole thing's kind of becoming a mess. Alright, well, we should have our stats reporting stuff working now, so why don't we test it out? First, I need to grab some water.